God, like the ending to this movie, I hate how it's getting praised online because I hated it, and I
Dude,
don't
I
want
walked out.
to. I hated the ending.
Are you
I
talking
thought
about
it
like the
didn't match
montage?
at all. Yeah,
So this is what's wrong with this movie. I think also
yeah,
why people weren't really buying into this because it's basically trying to do what Once Upon a Time in Hollywood did, but it was trying to force it like down your throat, where it's like what this did impacted the future, right? And look at the transition we've gone from the first moving picture, right, from the silent movie to the talkies and these different evolutions that we go through. Look how where we arrived today. I'm like, dude, you don't have to tell me that. If you are watching this movie, you get it. You don't have to just give me a 5 minute, 10-minute montage. Once they did it, I got tired of it. I'm like, dude, you don't need to do this.
you know
Like,
what
I
I
get,
thought
I
of?
get what you're trying to say, and this is why people are sick of right going to the movies and only seeing superhero movies, and people like tour directors who don't want to make a superhero movie, they end up making a autobiographical type of story or one that is a love letter to Hollywood. Those are the three movies you see in theaters nowadays, literally,
Yeah, pretty much.
right? People are tired, right, of people, directors giving their own love letter to Hollywood. It's pretty much the same message, and it seems very self-indulgent. And audiences don't want to see like actors and directors that are just full of themselves,
Yeah, like after
Excuse me.
watching Bardo on Netflix, that was probably the most self-indulging movie I've seen in a
It's like,
long
look how
time.
great we are. It's just like,
Look
dude,
what we
that's
had
not
to
why I'm
go
here.
through to like get to the top. And
Yeah.
like I understand, like you see this in the trailers again. This is spoiler free review, but like they want to be a part of something bigger, right? That scene like the cocaine in the beginnings in the trailers, like I want to be sort of something big, bigger. I am a star, things like that. In that last scene, like I was like, okay, that makes sense. Like, yeah, like you were a part of something big, right? But like when I was watching that, I thought immediately about self indulgence because like the whole movie's like basically crapping on Hollywood, like a lot crapping on it, even when like it was at its peak, right? The we talked about the strikes, the when it transitioned to the talkies, how bad people died on set, like things like that,
Yeah.
and which was not gonna lie, hilarious part
That
of the
was a
movie,
good that was a good scene too.
a
Also, like
great
I would
scene,
say like somewhat associated with
um,
the first act, maybe beginning of the
right,
second.
but like I think the last thing, third thing that is a part of self indulgence is that it's like we're like trying to like tell the Academy like, oh, this is a love letter to Hollywood, or this is just like nominate me for the Oscars because I love movies and look at this montage going through the classic movies, Singing in the Rain, and all this stuff. Like this is Hollywood. This should be like I hated that, and especially coming from I was surprised. This is coming from a 37-year-old Damien Chazelle who doesn't have to do this at all.
He's
Already
got to
has
wait.
an
Wait a
Oscar.
few years. Just
It was
wait.
he already has an Oscar. When I saw that, I lost some respect for Damien Chazelle. I honestly did, and I'm mad that I did because again I just kept thinking the first hour of this movie was amazing, but when I saw that last hour and that last scene, I just lost respect. That's such like a just a baity move, and I hate that.
Yeah, it's like it's just like this is what the Academy loves. It's like paying respect, right, to what has come before it, tradition. It's a huge part of Hollywood, acknowledging our past, things like that. But it's just it does feel a little bit desperate, like by him doing that. Like he doesn't have to
Desperate,
do that.
yes.
Like he lost out on La La Land for Best Picture, right? He's got this huge like First Man, another. It's a biographical film, right? Guess who loves that? The Academy. Like I just want him to do something like Whiplash, dude. Go back, go on a more micro scale. Don't make it so big because you got lost in the sauce a little bit here. Um,
Sometimes we have to go back. No, but yeah, I agree. And like he has
Yeah,
the best
the
director.
runtime just like also just like dude, I've been sitting here 3 hours. The third act here, right? It's really falling apart, and it's like this is gonna help save the movie if I just watch 10 minutes of like everything I've ever seen in my life before. Like, no, I'm out. I left. I
It's
walked out of the theater. I'm
and
like, they should have ended it right with that moment where Calva is in the theater. Should have ended the movie, right? Doesn't it was it's still not a perfect ending, but it
right.
helps tie in right some moments earlier in the movie and right referencing the movie that they show as he's watching it. I'm not going to give it away for spoilers, but I think uh, that would have been a much more fitting ending. But it's just like we're trying to fit that Oscar narrative.
Yeah, the Oscar narrative. That's a perfect way to put it. And I think you mentioned this earlier, kind of transitioning a little bit here. is that like, yeah, maybe this movie wasn't long enough because there was so much stuff in it.
Crazy.
I
Yep.
actually think the opposite, where I think if you just did the Pitt storyline, the Calva storyline, and then you kind of develop more the Robbie storyline more, like develop those three, and then the Calva Roby relationship, then you have your movie right there. That's less than 2.5 hours. But
Right.
instead, we go into the trumpet player, Sidney Palmer. We get into Lady Faye a little bit. We get into Gene Smart. We get into
Too
all
many
these
characters.
crazy. It's not even like a like we were just talking about an ensemble movie like Glass Onion. This shouldn't have been an ensemble movie at all. Like this should have been just like those three characters all in one's on the come down of his career, one's on the come up, and then the others behind the scenes, starting from the bottom. Simple way to look at Hollywood. I love that. That was when this movie was at its core. But when it starts expanding in the second act and the third act, it just got way too overstuffed and narratively speaking, like just collapsed. And then at the end, morally corrupt.